Hello everyone, welcome to Urbanscape Bangalore, and in this episode we will be looking at a small succulent arrangement. So these are the succulents that I have purchased from the APD nursery. So I'm really happy that I got a wide range of succulents and at the same time at a very nominal rate. So the small succulents that you see here, I have got it for around 30 rupees each, and the big echeveria plant that you see there, that was a little on the higher side, but it was still okay compared to the other nurseries. So it was around 130ish or 120, I don't remember actually, but it was over 100 rupees, and that's quite a good deal as well. So for this succulent arrangement I will be using this metallic container, of which I had taken a video of, and I had shown you guys on how to create drainage holes in a metallic container. So this metallic container will be used for this succulent arrangement, and I've already added some drainage materials, some coconut husks and broken tile pieces, and that is probably enough. You can use pebbles or you can use gravel to increase drainage as well. So I've decided to use this metallic container for a succulent arrangement because the succulents do not really do well in very hot scorching sun. So the plants that are in metallic containers should not be exposed to too much sun because metal absorbs a lot of heat and the roots might get spoiled. So it is advisable that you keep it in a semi-shaded location. So now we will be adding the potting mix that is required for the succulents. So there is no potting mix per se, but just sand. So I have added around 80% of sand and 20% of compost, and that is all that these succulents need. So if you want to avoid the compost altogether, you can do that. However, I'm using fresh homemade compost here. So what I'm doing is I'm adding layers to it rather than mixing the entire potting mix. So you can do either of the two. You can either mix the compost along with the sand and then add it, or add it in layers. So I'm adding it in layers because I want the roots of these plants to kind of travel around and then find their own resources so that they become a little bigger. So that is something that I want to probably achieve. I don't know if it will hold true, but we will find out soon. So I've added the additional sand layer. So for the succulents, you don't really have to plant them really deep because they have a very shallow root system. So you can probably bring the soil to the level that you want and then add the succulent. So here I have a very leggy echeveria and the Plectranthus prostratus plant. So it is a vining variety, the Plectranthus prostratus, or the Swedish ivy. So I want a trailing plant as well. So you have a lot of trailing plants that are succulents and you can use them. I'm using the Plectranthus variety. So we will just divide the echeveria. It's become leggy because I think it was planted in an area where it did not get a lot of sun. So the echeveria, once it is planted in an area where it does not get bright light, it becomes leggy and it never regains the shape. So if you want a rosette form of shape, have or give it consistent lighting, otherwise it will not stay. So this is the echeveria, which I think they had mentioned it as rose cacti. I think that is wrong. Rose cacti is completely different. Echeveria is completely different. This is echeveria, and again the roots are not as shallow as the other varieties, but this is a bigger echeveria, so it has quite a good root system. You don't really have to break all the roots. You can keep some of them. You don't really have to mess it up. So there is no method to this madness. You guys can create your own succulent arrangement with your own imagination. So this is my jade plant. So this is my first jade plant. Actually, I've never grown jade plants, so I'm really happy that I have one, and I've seen a lot of people going crazy about jade plants. So this is a sedum. This is a jelly bean sedum. So this is called the sedum rubrotinctum. So this is a native of Mexico. So the sedums are plants that do really well in rock and cliff areas, and so these sedums have very less root system, and they do not get too much of water because obviously the rocks and cliffs etc. don't hold a lot of water, so they just get that running water when it rains, and they do really well in full sun as well. But since it is not in its natural element, I would suggest that you avoid hot scorching sun. So this is another sedum variety, and these sedums are generally natives of Mexico, and you need to replicate the same kind of environment for it to grow and flourish. So the echeveria comes from Central America, Mexico, South America, etc. So this is a small aloe which is called the aloe mini bells. It is a native of South Africa, and these are really tiny aloes, and they really do well indoors as well. But all these plants really need bright light conditions, and I keep reiterating that because it's very important, and these plants otherwise will not grow, will always be leggy and will not really grow well. So I've added almost all the plants, and now I will be top dressing it with some sand. So while doing this, the sand might get into the crevices of the echeveria. You should be really careful while handling the succulents because they are very fragile, they're very brittle plants, they tend to break. So I'm using a small paintbrush to get off these sand materials that have entered the echeveria plant. So while handling these plants, one or two or many leaves or leaflets will fall down. You do not really have to worry about it because it's very easy to grow a new plant out of these parts. You just have to let it callus. Callus is nothing but you need to heal, let it heal, and then after 1 or 2 days you can just place it on top of sand and you will get a new plant. So you really don't have to worry about that. Just that the echeveria plant, whatever parts of it were actually old, you can just take it off. So now I'm top dressing it again or mulching it with some rock. So I'm giving it its natural environment. So some of the plants would really do really well near these rocks or pebbles. So another thing is, do not let these plants have contact with the wet soil because the leaves tend to rot very fast. So just give some spacing between the topsoil and the leaves of the plant. So for beginner gardeners, these plants are called succulents primarily because it holds a lot of water in their leaves because they're found in drought-like conditions and semi-arid or semi-desert like conditions. That is why they hold a lot of water. So you do not really have to add a lot of water, because if you add a lot of water and if this sits in a lot of water, then it will rot and die. So the most important tips for a successful succulent container is less water and more bright sunlight. That is, I will be placing this in a northern location where it will not get scorching heat, but it will get bright sunlight. So thank you for watching Urbanscape Bangalore, and if you like this video, then please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.